Hey there, and welcome back to By His Grace Marriage Ministry Podcast. My name is Amanda, and welcome back to the Fruits of the Spirit Within Your Marriage series. And this is actually going to be the last episode of the series. And it may be the last episode of season 3 as well, unless there is something that the Holy Spirit brings to me to share. This will be the last episode of season 3. I will be taking a break for a short time before starting season 4. Number one, I want to pray and just see what season 4 is going to look like and what I'll be talking about. I do know for sure that I will be talking about prayer, as I didn't really get around to that this season. And I can't even believe that this will be either, I think, the 19th or 20th episode already. So a few things that I had wanted to do in this season didn't happen, but that's okay. It is whatever is in His will. And I do want to pray and seek Him for season 4. Another thing is I want to take a short break. I have been experiencing some health conditions. So for those of you who have been following my podcast and ministry and have been listening, if you wouldn't mind keeping me in your prayers concerning some of these health conditions that I have been dealing with. One of them basically is just, being under stress at this time. There's a lot of transition going on right now, a lot going on within the world, and that has taken a toll, and I'm sure with a lot of people, but that has taken a toll on myself as well. And so, but I was diagnosed in 2021 with fibromyalgia, and that has it's good days and it's bad days. So I've been experiencing lately more bad days than the good days. So if you could just please keep me in prayer concerning those things, I would really, really greatly appreciate it. So I will be taking some time, but let's go ahead and jump into this episode. So there were 2 episodes where I combined 2 fruits of the Spirit together. One of them was kindness and goodness, and the other one, they're not 2 separate fruits, but they're the same thing, because depending on what Bible verse you read, one might say faithfulness, the other one might say trustworthiness. So for example, the Bible that I have says trustworthiness, but I do know that in most other versions of the Bible it says faithfulness, so I just put those 2 together. So today I will be doing the same. The last 2 spirits, or fruits of the Spirit I should say, that I had left is patience and peace. And I actually saved peace last for a reason, and that's because if you apply all of these fruits of the Spirit within your marriage as best as you can, you will have peace in your marriage, okay? Will it be easy? Not always. Will you be able to do it on a daily basis? Probably not. But the important thing is that as long as you and your spouse are doing the effort, then you will see these fruits and you will absolutely see peace within your marriage, okay? So this is going to be a pretty short episode. Not a whole lot to say here. I am just going to read a few things, and then I am going to read some scriptures that kind of have all of the fruits of the Spirit rolled into one, and they are scriptures that you can absolutely apply to your marriage or your future marriage, okay? So that's what this episode will be. And I've already made the announcement, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I want to say is, of course, you want to always be in prayer. I say this often. I haven't really done an episode talking about prayer and how to pray concerning different situations, but that will be something that I do plan on doing by His grace within season 4 of this podcast. So being in prayer, is really, really important. Of course, having grace. All of these episodes I have done are all equally important, but if you haven't listened to the episode that I did, I believe it was titled, I don't even remember my own titles, I believe it was titled Having Grace and Forgiveness for Your Spouse, I believe is what it was. Let me just double check, because my goodness, I should know that. I've done so many that it's hard to keep up. But this is a really important episode, and if you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend it, because that also, along with peace, is a very vital factor in your marriage. So having grace and forgiveness for your husband, I probably should have titled it spouse, so it goes for both men and women, but that's okay. So if you haven't heard that episode, please do that. Very, very good episode as well. So being in prayer, having grace, and having self-control, which is another fruit of the Spirit that I actually just talked about in yesterday's episode. So that is the most recent one. So I highly recommend that you just listen to all the episodes in this series. The one that I said, the having grace and forgiveness for your husband, that is not a part of the series, but it was right before the series. Okay. All right. So let's go over what patience looks like. Okay. So patience is the ability to wait calmly, to move forward softly towards a goal, to work towards something unhurriedly. So not being in a hurry. Being patient also allows for growth. It gives space, breathing room, and a place where communication can flow easily and thoughtfully. Patience also means the ability to keep a good attitude while waiting. Patience endures hardship or misfortune without complaining, and patience in many ways means perseverance. And of course, in marriage, you want to endure and persevere through your marriage together, okay? So, what are some ways to have peace in your marriage? So, there's actually a long list of ways to have peace in your marriage, but again, the most important thing is that when you have, the scriptures as your foundation, you have Elohim at the center and covering your marriage, you're in prayer, and you are applying and producing these fruits of the Spirit within your marriage. That is ultimately going to bring peace. Another thing is, I'm sorry, that was my phone, is facing conflicts and challenges and issues together as a couple, as a team. Sorry, my phone is going off. I apologize. Is facing conflicts and challenges and issues together as a couple, as a team, instead of going towards or at one another when a problem arises. Okay? So that is one of the biggest ways to have peace and maintain peace within your marriage. And again, there's a list of ways to keep peace, but I'm not going to go through all of that. But what I said is really the main thing to focus on. And as you go throughout your marriage, you will start to see and find ways of how to keep peace, as long as you're allowing the Holy Spirit to minister to you and to help you to produce those fruits. Okay? All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and share some scriptures with you that are kind of generalized within everything I've talked about, but they are scriptures that you can absolutely apply to your marriage relationship. Okay, so the first one is really beautiful and one of my favorites. It is Matthew 19:6, and it reads, "So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what Elohim has joined together, let no one separate." Okay, Ephesians 4:2-3. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Then we have 1 Corinthians 13:13. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. I talked a lot about unconditional love within marriages. 1 Corinthians 13:4-5. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. And it keeps no record of wrongs. Now, I mentioned this in an episode, and I'm going to go ahead and share it again. One way that you can see whether yourself or your spouse is following this is by putting your name there where it says love, replacing the word love with your name. So for example, I'll use myself. I can say, am I being patient? Is Amanda patient? Is Amanda kind? Does Amanda envy? Does she boast? Is she humble instead of proud? Am I humble instead of proud? Am I dishonoring my husband in any way, right? Am I self-seeking? Am I easily angered? Do I keep record of any wrongs? Okay. And you can do that with your spouse as well, just to see, are we really producing fruits in our marriage and towards our spouses, okay? So that's another great thing to do as well, just to kind of see where you're at. And of course, pray about it and ask Elohim to reveal it to you. Colossians 3:14, and over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Proverbs 30:18-19, there are 3 things that are too amazing for me, 4 that I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a young woman. Proverbs 3:3-4, let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck and write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will win favor and a good name in the sight of Elohim and man. 1 Thessalonians 5:11, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. Remember, all these apply to your marriage, okay? 1 Corinthians 16:14, do everything in love. Ephesians 4:32, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as the Messiah within Elohim forgave you. Psalm 85:10, love and faithfulness meet together, righteousness and peace kiss each other. 1 Peter 4:8, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Song of Solomon 2:16, my beloved is mine, and I am his. He browses among the lilies. Romans 12:10, be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourselves. Mark 10:9, and this is the same as the scripture from Matthew I read. Therefore, what Elohim has joined together, let no one separate. Proverbs 18:22, he who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from Elohim. Song of Solomon 4:7, you are altogether beautiful, my darling. There is no flaw in you. So it's all about seeing the good in your spouse always, not the bad, okay? I know that can be hard to do sometimes, but it's important that you always see your spouse how God sees your spouse, okay? And again, all of these things I have talked about, that's why I said I'm just going to kind of end this series and this episode with kind of a generalized, how do you call that? Like a generalized, oh goodness, I can't think, like outcome of everything that I've talked about, but doing it through scriptures, okay? 1 Corinthians 13:2, if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. 1 John 4:12, no one has ever seen Elohim, but if we love one another, Elohim lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. Remember that unconditional love. We should love our spouses the way that Elohim loves us. Jeremiah 31:3, then Elohim appeared to us in the past, saying, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I've drawn you with unfailing kindness. Psalm 143:8, let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. We have to trust our spouses, and I think that's something that I may not have done an episode on. I know I've talked about it, but I haven't done like an episode that just talks about trust. Other than when I did the series, the fruits of spirit, faithfulness / trustworthiness, but we need to have trust with our spouses, okay? Okay, Ruth chapter 1, 16-17. But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your Elohim, my Elohim. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May Elohim deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." Song of Solomon 8:7. Many waters cannot quench love, rivers cannot sweep it away. If one were to give all the wealth of one's house for love, it would be utterly scorned. John 15:12. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Song of Solomon 3:4. Scarcely had I passed them when I found the one my heart loves. I held him and would not let him go till I had brought him to my mother's house, to the room of the one who conceived me. I love Song of Solomon. Hebrews 10:24-25. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Romans 13:8. Let no debt remain outstanding, except the continuing debt to love one another, for whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. Remember, your marriage, your godly marriage, is a covenant, right? It's a covenant between you and your spouse and Elohim, okay? It's to be fulfilled. Proverbs 21:21. Whoever pursues righteousness and love finds life, prosperity, and honor. Philippians 1:7. It is right for me to feel this way about all of you, since I have you in my heart, and whether I am in chains or defending and confirming the gospel, all of you share in Yahuwah's grace with me. Jude 1:2. Mercy, peace, and love be yours in abundance. You should have these things in abundance in your marriage, in your godly marriage. Okay? So that is all I have for you for this episode concerning peace and patience. Again, it's pretty self-explanatory. And again, I saved really peace for last along with patience because they go hand in hand. And really, in order to have peace in your marriage, you need to be able to apply all of these fruits of the Spirit within your marriage, because remember, it's a godly union. It's a covenant between you and your spouse and Elohim. So it's important to not be in your flesh. It's important to be bearing these fruits to one another, to your children, and to others outside of your union, outside of your family. It's important to reflect the love of Elohim, not only just to one another and to your children, but to others that are around you as well. Okay, so that is everything for today and for this episode. Again, this was the last episode of the series, and more than likely the last episode of season 3 for now, unless he gives me something else. I may come back on and share it, and then that'll be it for season 3 of the podcast. I want to say thank you so much to everyone that has supported this podcast ministry, for those that have taken the time to listen and shared it with other people. And I just pray from my heart that it has been a source of encouragement and uplifting and edifying for those of you, whether you are single, whether you are already in your marriage. It doesn't matter where you're at right now in your walk. I pray that it's encouraged you. And I will continue to pray that this podcast ministry, for however long it might go, will continue to bless and minister and encourage for those that are listening. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I will talk with you in my next episodes.